and welcome back to another fan mini episode of Catch That, where we get to know people through their favorite R&B songs. I am Naturally Elise, and that's my bro,
JR.
And today we are talking to someone that I've known for a very long time, actually. Now I think about it, a very long time. And we are going to talk to Tyler. Hi, Tyler.
Hey, how's it going?
Great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do it.
So let the folks know about you as little or as much as you like to tell.
Sure. So I'm Tyler. I live in DC. My job is I work in communications and politics, but I am probably, if you know me online, I have a blog that I've been running since about 2005. I have not written on it in like at least a year. I'm really bad at it, but because I've written for a long time, some people do know who I am. And I have a little bit of a reputation for being a bit of a contrarian. I like to think of it as just understanding music better than most people, but.
That's that, baby. Yes. Yes.
So that's me in a nutshell.
All right. So how about you tell the good folks what song you picked to talk about today?
So I struggled with this because even though I'm sort of a little bit known for not liking anything, I like a lot of music. And so it was difficult for me to think about who I wanted to talk about. And so I decided to go with Angel in Disguise by Brandy because it's one of my favorite Brandy songs. And I think it's actually, it says a lot about sort of what she was going to become. I think that song points in a really interesting direction for like where her music went. And so it's an interesting, I think, moment in her creative maturation that I think is a little bit underappreciated.
I agree.
So I'm going to tell you something funny, Tyler.
Oh, Lord. Oh, God.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Oh, God.
Because I didn't want to make you nervous before the show. I don't particularly care for that song, but I'll get into why. But,
okay.
But not musically, lyrically, I do not care for that song.
Okay. I think I might understand why.
Yes. But yes. But sonically, I do love that song.
Yeah.
But otherwise, okay. So
it's such an interesting song because I think so in the 90s, in the 80s and 90s, you would take like 3-4 years off between albums for most artists.
Yeah.
And what that allowed people to do, right, was sort of like live some life, figure out what the next move was. And I think if you have to think about like Brandy, there had been sort of teen girl singers before her.
Yeah. Tracy
Spencer, Shanice, Stacey Lattisaw, but nothing quite like Brandy had existed before Brandy.
Right.
And so much happened for her between the self-titled debut and Never Say Never, where, and I think, I wasn't going to go there.
Well, one thing JR will always do is go there, but yeah.
The album is about how Adina stole her man.
Like, come on!
The whole album. Like, Never Say Never is like Adina Howard stole my man.
Yeah.
Like, Angel Disguise is about her. Like, that's what it is. But I think, the first album is like, it's an album by a teenager, but it doesn't sound like a kiddie album. It doesn't sound like the early Stacey albums. It doesn't sound like Inner Child. It doesn't have any of that. And so I think that, for a while, like she just became this sort of like huge pop presence and the music sort of fell by the wayside. And I think what's interesting about Angel in Disguise is it opens the album.
Yes.
And it is a completely different sound than she had ever done, and really a completely different sound than we had heard at that point. Right. Rodney had done a couple of songs. He did like Share My World. He did a couple of songs with Brownstone before that, but like he was sort of just also popping, right?
Right.
And it's just such a I remember buying the album and putting it on and just being like blown away by just the sound of it. It is one of the best produced songs of the 90s in my view. Like it's just beautifully, beautifully arranged and written. It's just like, it's evocative. It uses her voice really well. It uses Joe's voice really well. I mean, it's just, I think it's one of the more sort of impressive like feats of production that she's ever had. I think even better than some of the stuff that they did together later. Like, I think it's just a really, really, really powerful song.
Yeah.
So that's why I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And tell me if you agree with me. That album to me, Never Say Never, it like sonically sounds a little dark and haunting almost.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
Especially
Yeah.
Angel in
I love
Disguise,
it.
the way it comes in, it's kind of spooky, right?
Yeah. It's a dark album. Like it's a very like you don't get to Happy till like 10 tracks in.
Right. That's why I love it so much because it's so dark. I love it.
Yeah. No, Brandy, like it's interesting. I was like, actually before this, I reread the Vibe article before the album came out.
Mm-hmm.
And that article is basically like, don't anybody talk about the fact she dated Wanye when she was a minor. Don't anybody talk about the fact that she likes Keith Murray and like this girl is dark. She is, I think we don't really fully appreciate that until later. Like I think Aphrodisiac has some darkness in it. And obviously the most recent album has some darkness in it. But that's where I think she shines because her voice has a very smoky quality. And it's just sort of very naturally haunting, just her voice itself. And so I think, and she's like 19, 18 years old.
Yeah.
And Dina stole her man, so she's mad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you can tell when it first comes in like that. I love how you said, Tyler, because I love how you said that Angel in Disguise, as soon as it comes in, it's like it captivates you because it's so different than what the Brandy we got before. Because that first album, like Elise talks about a lot, it's very R&B-ish. Nothing, there's nothing to it. It's just straight R&B for her. But then when you come in with that intro to Never Say Never, and it's kind of like the plane, and then you hear Dave, and then you hear Joe come in, and you hear that sound. It's like, whoa, what is this? It's like, boom, it's captivating like that.
Yeah. But I think that's something that always kind of confused folk with Brandy is you did get this dark subject matter, dark sonic things going on, but her imaging never matched it.
Yes.
And I think that has been a problem through her whole career where people can't reconcile it.
Yeah. But y'all, do y'all think it would have worked if, so y'all know with her image, right? Y'all was saying, and I totally agree with it. But do you think if she would have did anything else with imaging with Never Say Never, it would have worked? Because I think she was pushing it to the pop world anyway. So I think that kiddish still had to be there because I don't know if it would have pushed like it would have if the image wouldn't have been there. Or you think? It's
the thing that's the issue and the conflict with every artist that starts out as a kid or teenager, they get big then. It's hard. I mean, you could go way back with that. I mean, think of how they had to reshape Michael Jackson and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And with some people, it works, and then sometimes it doesn't, and then sometimes it kind of falls somewhere in the middle. I think Brandy kind of falls somewhere in the middle.
I think what's hard is that she had done all that stuff before the second album to sort of like build up this mystique, right? So she was doing Moesha. She was, she had done Cinderella. So she was cultivating this. Her mother rather was cultivating this image.
Come on, Tyler, you better say it. Sonia was all over it.
Yeah, she there's a whole 5 paragraphs in the Vibe article that is all about Sonia. Like she's talking about how Ray J's album didn't work. Like this is a Brandy promotional article,
right?
And we talking about Ray J and Sonia. Like it's a very and on some level, I get it. The industry is incredibly dangerous, right? It's anti-artist. It is, and so, and again, no one had done what Brandy had. No one had sort of 4 million albums out the gate, as a 15-year-old, as a black, brown skin girl, all those things. And so I think by the time she got to Never Say Never, I think you can feel her trying to figure out how to reconcile what is probably real darkness in her and this image that she has to sort of uphold. And you see it fall apart with Full Moon, right? She gets pregnant and the lies start, it just she went through a sort of tumultuous period in those first 5 or 6 years of the new millennium. But Never Say Never really was, I think, trying to reconcile. The cover art is dark. A lot of the videos are dark. You Don't Know Me video, she's in black leather. And so I think she was trying. But when you're a machine, and I think particularly for women, because she's not terribly great at like exuding sexuality, really. And so
try for aphrodisiac.
Yeah, it kind of comes off as this coy. It's like it kind of comes off as that.
Yeah.
But if you think about her dating history, she clearly has it. It just is not a thing she can portray well.
Right.
And so it's a weird, like, I think that she's just sort of an interesting figure in that I think she sonically has a lot more depth than she exudes as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's always been hard for her. And I think she's starting to reconcile it now. Like, I feel like it feels more authentically Brandy, like in the last, I'd say 5 years.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like Chardonnay feels probably closer to her than anything she's ever done. Like her work on Stars. So like, I think, so you can see her later in her 30s figuring that out. But I think it was very, very difficult for her at that period. And I also think, frankly, you know, they needed her, or she needed to be distinct from Monica and distinct from Aaliyah.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're 3 very different artists.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's good, right? Because like you had the choice, or you could listen to all 3, which is what most of us did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And
lying so, like they didn't, but they did. All 3 of them.
Everybody liked. Like,
yeah.
It was not a thing. Like there was. I mean, it's funny because like I don't remember like a Monica Brandy feud until after the song. Like I don't remember before that anybody saying like that they were like, it just, you know, that sort of took a life on it of its own after the song.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
and,
she's
and then kind of tangential to that is you kind of see some people with takes on Brandy and they kind of act like people didn't love Brandy or that they didn't. Like when people go on these rants, it's like, she can't sing or she's not this. And I'm like, I was there.
Right.
Yes.
Did those records sell themselves? Like, no, she was a big deal.
Right.
And people liked her singing and people watched her acting. And so it's that revisionist is just weird to me.
It is really weird. Like it is like, I feel like, and this happens a lot, I think particularly with female artists, where like everybody likes to pretend like you didn't like something or that like things are different. Like you just sort of go back and pretend like you didn't, like Brandy was huge.
I be telling people that online. I'm like, yo, she was a big deal. Like 94 to like, I could say 99, nobody was touching her. Like she was that girl. Like she was the it girl. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, come on, she did Cinderella. Like that was huge. Like,
right.
Like, what's wrong with y'all? But you know how social media and them do.
I mean, listen, most of the people who have those kinds of takes, they're either people who are our age who want to seem cool, or they're people who are like 5-10 years younger and don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Facts.
I mean, Brandy has a unique voice. And it is fair to say that like you might like another voice better than hers.
Yeah.
Right. And there are certainly songs where like I don't really care for the quality of hers. But like Babyface considers her the best singer he's ever worked with. And he worked with Whitney.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just like her abilities are both very present and also very subtle. Right? Like she does a lot, but it doesn't seem like a lot. Later, I think now she's doing a little bit too much. But back then, she wasn't like, she was doing a lot in a very subtle way. Yeah. It was really, really interesting. And the way she sort of understands her voice, like that's the thing for me with singers. Like I am more interested in singers who understand the limitations of their voice than folks who just have a lot and show off. Like I'm not a Whitney or Mariah fan. I'm just not. I never will be.
Ooh. Ooh, I love it.
I don't believe either of them when they sing.
Wow. But Brandy, you see, she was so inspired by Whitney. It was like, you know, that. And I just love going back to Brandy's, her older performances. Like when she first came out, the runs was so natural. It was just so like, oh, that's why I know when Rodney got in the studio with her, it was like, wait a minute. I know, like LaShawn, really. LaShawn, like, I know what I can do with this. You know what I'm saying? Like, ooh, this girl got something. And like you said, Babyface loved it. So
I mean, like I mean, some of her best songs, like she are one-track vocals. Like it just like she did it one time and they mastered it because it was that. I mean, technically, she doesn't falter. Like I've never seen her, like except for there was one performance she did of of one voice where I think the mic stuff was off.
Yeah, I know.
But other than that,
it was the NAACP, I think, or the S was one of them. Yeah, it was a little off. It was a little.
But other than that, I've never heard her miss a note, be off. Like her control is unbelievable.
Yeah. Because like, and it's always very dramatic when me and like JR listen to the first album. Like, it's these very extra ass runs that are subtle at the same time.
Yes. Yes.
It's like a long run, but it's not loud. Maybe that's what it is.
Yes, exactly.
And so it adds a different quality to it. So yeah.
Yeah, because she doesn't have a lot of power, like the way we think of like a Mariah or a Whitney or like those kinds of voices, a Christina, like really, really powerful. But her power is different. Like it's in the control, it's in the way she sort of arranges her vocal. Like she has a great sense of like the kind of musical environment she wants her voice to exist in on her songs. And Angel in Disguise is that kind of song where like it's her lead is wonderful, but what makes the song work is like all of this other stuff she's doing with like her and Joe's voices. It's just like great singers in my mind really understand backgrounds, and some of the best singers are background singers. So it's just, I think she and Janet are probably two of the best in terms of backgrounds in the last 30 years.
Thank you. I'm so glad you say that, because me and Elise argue with people, not argue because we don't do that kind of stuff. We don't argue with people that don't know shit. But we like, y'all don't understand. Janet might not be the powerhouse that y'all think, but them backgrounds and stacking that she does is A1. Like, I love how if people go back and listen to like, Come Back to Me or Lonely or them songs. Yes. That's why even Brandy said, I was inspired by her because of her stacking that she do. That's why I'm like, y'all better stop sleeping on Janet for real. Like, stop.
Yeah. I mean, you have to think about like, just musically speaking, like figuring out how to sort of stack that many vocal tracks to make it sound like harmonious and make it sound, clean, and like that's really complicated musicality. And you can't not know music and do that. Like it's not possible.
Yes.
Like you can't, like it's just not like she's a Jackson. Let's be clear.
Do you know what I mean? I don't get it.
Like every single one of them is incredible in some way, right? And so Brandy, I think, is an interesting figure in that way, because like so much of what I think comes out of that period is like a real, like there's a drive sort of post Whitney Mariah for like big showy voices.
Yeah.
And then but what you get, like, but if you think about the voices that people really love in that period, they sort of go against that. So the Tonys, the Marys, the Brandys, and Aaliyah, that they do very different things than sort of traditionally gospelly trained voices.
Yeah.
And that is what I think is really, really powerful about her. And it's made her influential because it's so, I mean, the way people sort of track and arrange vocals is, I mean, they just steal it from Brandy. I mean, all over the place.
It's on my damn nerves because some of them can't freaking do it. And it hurts the hell out of me. Just because you do a run don't mean it makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, they just run all over the place. And you be like, all right, okay, all right, enough.
It's, oh my God. People be trying to do those descending runs. And I'm just like, let her just do that. I need you to try that. I don't need you to do that.
And for you to mention Joe, I don't think Joe gets a lot of his props either. And me and Elise talk about Joe a lot because he does not get the respect he deserves. And the backgrounds on this record, on Angel in Disguise, really, this whole record, like literally, to me, is a perfect record. Now with lyrics, but but as far as the like production, because Brandy actually helped produce this record, and she did it, and with Joe on the background and everything, it's just so subtle. It's just so dope. You know what I mean? Now, lyrically, I know Elise is like,
yeah. So say more about what you mean about the lyrics. So I think I know what you
like.
mean.
Inquiring minds like to know. Yes.
Yeah, it's a very nitpicky, writerly thing. It's so
sure.
Logically, it should have been a devil in disguise.
In disguise. Yes. No, I hear you 100%.
Yeah, it's a grammar syntax thing that's just that irks me about the song. So instantly when it comes on, even though it sounds amazing, I'm like, you know.
No,
she's such a writer. She's such a writer.
No, it's so true. I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, I feel like this should be devil. And my friend who was listening to it was like, why don't you shut up? Because it's so great. But no, you're absolutely right. It should be devil in disguise.
Yeah.
That's literally the only, like, otherwise, I think, I do think it's a very gorgeous song. All the things we talked about sonically with it, I think for the time, it was the just right thing to put out. Like, everything about it, and then I have to come be nitpicky. But
no, what do you think about this? Y'all said that the album is very dark, right? So it's a dark album, very dark. We all agree with that. But Brandy's image had to still be the pretty and this and that. What if the song was really entitled Devil in Disguise and they changed it?
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised.
They might have changed it because it's like you're coming into Brandy's album, it says it's the intro, and then the first song is Devil in Disguise. It's gonna turn people off. It's gonna be like, that's
you
not
got
the
a
girl
point.
that's baby.
I mean, she's a church girl.
Yeah, so you probably even want to put that in as, you know, a title. Devil.
We know listening to the album, it's very dark. Like, it's a dark album for real until you get to Happy. And that's track, what, 13? So it's like, no, like, you know what I'm saying? So I think they probably, and that's a great opener. Because maybe if it was called Devil in Disguise, they might have had to put it at the end and it wouldn't have worked. You know what I'm saying? So they like, all right, we're going to put it in the beginning and call it Angel in Disguise, and boom. Even though Brandy talked her shit on that joint, because she like, I knew back then because the rain began. It's like, she like, you chose that instead of me. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, that album, like, Learn the Hard Way. She just,
thank you, Tyler. Yes.
Ooh, baby, put that on everything. I mean, she was just like,
put that on everything. That's
my favorite Brandy song, period. The background she did, everything on there, and she putting her life on that song. Like, boom, I want you. I will swim the seas. I will do everything for you. Like,
and you know what? I like the simplicity of Almost Doesn't Count, because we think of it compared to the other songs, it's very simple.
Yeah,
it's my favorite Brandy song.
My mom loves that record.
I mean, it is her lead on that is, I think, one of her most beautiful leads. Yeah. I mean, that's basically a country song that she sort of remade, right? And she transforms it into like this beautiful, haunting, like sort of meditation almost. Like she just has a really like emotionally attuned like ability to just understand what a song means. Yeah. Like it's just like she can really sell the emotion of a song just beautiful. That's my favorite Brandy song. Like I love that she still performs it all the time. Like I love Almost Doesn't Count.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the fan favorites of hers. The fans like that. That's their song.
Absolutely.
She performs it differently every time I see her do it, and it's gorgeous.
So how has this song affected you in any way, whether life or just how you listen to music?
Yeah, I think I chose it because I think it's an interesting, so I really am interested in sort of the way artists develop over time. And so it's not my favorite Brandy, like we said, Almost Doesn't Count is my favorite Brandy song, but it's the song that I think gives us a peek into the kind of artist she was going to become. And so in that way, I think I really responded to it. And I actually do like darker music. Like I'm really into sort of like emotionally complicated, bluesy. It's why I love Aaliyah so much. Like she's a very dark sort of singer. And I think Brandy, and it wasn't what I expected Brandy to do. I remember distinctly when I heard The Boy's Mine, like just not really being sure what was going to come. Like, I mean, back then you didn't know what you were going to get. Like now people just sort of do the same thing for as long. Like we've been in this interminable like trap trap music period that's been like 15 damn years. But like back then, like, I mean, New Jack Swing is the most influential thing in the last 30 years, but it lasted maybe 3 years.
Right.
And so you just didn't know after 4 years what Brandy was going to do. And so to put that, and for that to be the opening track, like, it's just a sonic marvel. And it's so dark, and the rain, and like using sort of a male voice so prominently in the background. Yeah. Like, it just, like, and it just, none of those things were things I thought Brandy would do. Because I think if you think about, like, she's only 6 months older than me. So we're the same age. Mm-hmm. And so to think about like who she was becoming at 18, 19 years old, and being her that same age, and thinking about like sort of the darkness coming out of your teen years, all that. So that, like, it spoke to me because we're the same age, like we're contemporaries. And so that darkness that song suggests is what I love about it.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Dude, he took it there, this one. We had to do nothing. Tyler did it, yo.
Tyler need a whole hour talking about the album. We talked about the album and career, but we kind of put it in a nutshell. But it could have been an extended thing. Like, I'm just so interested. I'm like,
I
love this show.
Like, oh my God, because
I talk about Brandy forever. She's one of
about the darkness of this album, and I'm glad you hit that, because people don't understand. Yeah, it's got all these great production and beats, but this album is very dark. That's why it's in my top 10 of all time. Period. I'm the dark, sensitive. Yes. I mean, My Life is my favorite album of all time. Right. Tell you right there, like.
Exactly.
I'm into this, so I'm glad you threw that in there, because people think this album is so bright, and I'm like, not at all. Y'all really did not listen to this album. She is angry. She's pissed. She's like sad. I'm like, come on, Tomorrow, and like Truthfully, and all them joints. Like, for real, y'all really gonna say this is a happy album? Not at all.
I think it's a brave album. Like, it's like, if you think about it, like, Rodney was not a huge thing at the time. He was 20 years old. They're the same age, basically. Mm-hmm. He had done, a couple of tracks on Share My World. They're great. Yeah. He had done a couple of tracks for Brownstone. He had done some other stuff, but he was an untested sort of producer. Mm-hmm. And she gave like 3/4 of the album to him. Yep. And that is really, like, I think, fascinating. Is like, those, like, a good artist producer relationship brings out the best. Like, I mean, she was great on the first album, and she's been great since. Mm-hmm. But there's something, I think, uniquely beautiful about their relationship as artists that, we don't really have anymore. And I'm sure there are very good reasons why they don't work together anymore. But there was some magic there that I think it's been elusive for her since.
Yeah, I agree. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Oh man, this was dope. See?
Yes.
Nervous for why? No,
listen.
I
get started,
I respect that you were nervous. I respect it. I do not want to invalidate anyone's emotions.
But, I appreciate it.
Because I'd be nervous too, and this is partially my show. So there you go.
I mean, listen, you put stuff on the internet, you don't know what people gonna say.
That's why I always gotta have a red cup, because I don't know what I'm gonna
do. But yeah, that's why I chose Brandy, because she's like one of my like 5 favorite female voices of all time. And so it's easy for me to talk about her. I was telling Lise, I had like 6 other songs I thought about talking about, but you just, when in doubt, talk about Brandy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're gonna have to bring you back to talk about one of me and you's personal favorite groups. To talk about a Player song, please.
Oh, listen, I-65. Listen, I can talk about Player all day long. What? Smokey is one of the best singers of the last time. Like, that brother has unbelievable vocals.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, Static's pen. Listen, Static. I mean, if you think about, like, Timbaland's entire sound had to change after Aaliyah died and after Static died. Yep. Like, he doesn't sound anything like he used to. Like, when that little collective sort of broke up or sort of split off, like, I mean, they all sound very different. Like they're like Static was such a key sort of part of that collective. And when he was gone, and when Aaliyah's like, you just like, I mean, you like none of them have been able to sort of recapture a lot of that beauty, and a lot of it sort of is rooted in Static. Playa is like, listen, people get on my, they had one album, but they are my second favorite group after Jodeci. Wow. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we gotta get him back for that. Oh yes. Oh yeah. Yes. We gotta get him back for this.
He's also a good person to talk to about intro as well.
Oh, Love Me Better.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. Yes.
We need a whole like 3 hours with
Yes.
Yes. Oh,
yeah, I can go in.
Yes. So we thank you for hanging out with us. This was so amazing.
Yes.
Thank you. I had such a good time.
Okay. And if you want to be found, where can people find you, or your blog or anything?
So my blog is T Lewis is dope. TLEWIS is dope at .com. I don't have anything new on it, but I write something. I'm thinking about writing something on film, because I don't really write about music anymore because I'm too old to be talking about these kids. So, but yeah, that's where you can find me. I'm not on Twitter because Twitter's a cesspool, and Facebook.
Okay.
Twitter should be abolished. Terrible.
Oh dear. But yeah. But yeah, again, we thank you for hanging out with us. We would love to talk to you again, kind of in long form. So
I'd love to come back.
Just keep that in mind.
All right.
We're hollering at you. But yeah.
Okay.
But we also thank all our viewers for hanging out with us once again on another episode of Catch That, and we'll see y'all on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye. Hey y'all, and welcome back to another fan mini episode of Catch That, where we get to know people through their favorite R&B songs. I am naturally Elise, and that's my bro,
JR.
And today we are welcoming Vegas. Hey.
How y'all doing, man? It's a pleasure to be here. I'm a big fan of y'all.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so tell the folks who you are, a little bit about yourself.
All right, well, my real name is Steve. It's not Vegas, if somebody was thinking that for some reason. That's a long story, but I ain't gonna get into that. But I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I attended Boys and Girls High School in Brooklyn. Then went on to attend Morgan State University as a communications major, and I majored in radio broadcasting with a minor in television production. I've worked over 20 plus years in public radio broadcasting, mostly in the jazz music side of things. But with public radio, if you know public radio, there's all kinds of genres. So I've been everything from a host to an engineer to a producer. And currently I'm working at WNYC as assistant program director in New York City. Obviously, I'm back home. And I love music, you know what I'm saying? So contrary to popular belief, you know, a lot of people who know me through my podcast, Hip Hop Now podcast, would think hip hop is the thing I know, but little do they know my music collection is pretty extensive.
Yes, it
and
is.
I grew up on R&B and soul, a little bit of gospel, and what's crazy, considering my career, a little bit of jazz, very little bit of jazz. But, yeah, for the most part, I'm just a music fan, man, and I love it all, and I love talking about it, debating it, and topics like these. So I'm happy to be here to talk about this.
Yes. So how about you let the folks know what song you picked to talk about today?
All right. So when y'all, this was like a curveball when y'all was like, what's your favorite song? Because if anybody's a music lover, you don't really have one. right? Like I went over a million songs where I'm like, damn, Michael Jackson, Marvin Gaye, like damn, Rick James. Like I got some songs that I love, you know what I'm saying? Earth, Wind and Fire. But I picked this particular song because of how I came to it, you know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And considering I just said that, this song and its play on words got me when I was a youngin', because I was like, oh, it's about that? Like, oh, okay. But my song is Minnie Riperton's Inside My Love, off of her Adventures in Paradise album out of 1975. And, well, do y'all want me to get into it, or?
You do whatever you want, bro. Go
yeah, you free, bro. Go ahead, right. Bro. You free. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Ain't no rules around here.
So
nah.
Okay, cool. So like probably like in '93, right? I used to go to this mom and pop record store in downtown to the movie theater. I don't know if you remember that. They had 2 movie theaters down there.
Oh yeah.
But you remember that?
Yeah.
But there used to be this mom and pop record store over there, and I remember I would go in there and, you know, just look for hip hop, random stuff. Just when you're a music lover, you just fishing, you know what I'm saying? You digging through. And I remember I had heard on the radio, Loving You. And that was like my first time hearing it back then. And I didn't know who it was. All I knew is that it was like captivated me with her singing and just the melody in general. So, you know, when I saw, you know, this Minnie Riperton, it was the Capitol Records, like best of Minnie Riperton. I think that's what it was called. So I literally bought that tape, which I have sitting up here. I should have pulled it out so y'all can see the actual tape I bought.
Could have been like
I bought that tape just for Loving You, right? I bought that tape just for that song. And, you know, I'm just kind of, it's a tape. So you kind of fast forward to the song you like. So one day I just let it ride. And I remember I heard Inside My Love. And I was like, damn, this one's like really good. It's just like that other one. It has this like hypnotizing melody, and her singing is so lush and pure sounding, you know what I'm saying? And I didn't really pay attention to the lyrics, because a lot of times I just get into the vibe of the record before I start listening to, you know, what's being said.
Yeah.
And I remember she was saying, you know, Inside My Love. And my first thought, you know, this is older. This is the 90s. I'm thinking like metaphorically, right? Like, oh, inside her love, metaphorically, you know what I'm saying? See inside her. That's how I was thinking, you know what I'm saying? Until I got a little older, and I was like, wait a minute, hey, do you want to ride? Come to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? And I had to do a little research. I was like, well, maybe I'm just being dirty. But then I saw that, you know, Minnie Riperton said she wrote it as a song where a woman is asking a man for sex, basically. And I was like, what? Like, I mean, it didn't ruin the song for me, but in a lot of ways, I just didn't realize back then that some artists had lyrics that were that mature. I thought everybody was like metaphors back then.
Right.
Unlike the 90s where cats just kind of got to it.
Right.
Right. They just started saying it and kind of ruining it in some ways. But yeah, I fell in love with that song just because of how it sounded and how she was singing. And ways you can look at it literally or metaphorically, and they're still great. You know what I'm saying, when you think about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's definitely one of my favorite records. Minnie Riperton, Inside My Love.
Yes. And yeah, but it's so funny how people always, especially in the 90s, I remember, like, you know, parents, aunts, uncles be like, the music now is so grown, it's so explicit, it's so this.
Right.
But they couldn't say that around me because I've been a music head. I'm like, wait a minute, cute, you tried it. And they're like, well, they didn't say it so direct. Wait a minute, you tried it.
Right.
Right.
Like, it just was, I think a lot of what hid a lot of that is you had so much going on in the song musically. You had all these instruments, you had amazing arrangements, you had all this. So they got away with saying a lot of stuff because the music wasn't stripped down. In the 90s, everything was stripped down. So you could definitely hear when they talking, crazy. So.
Right.
That's when, because for me, this is actually my first Minnie Riperton song I heard. Because, bro, with 98.7 Kiss, that's where I first heard this song. And I remember hearing it, and I kind of looked at my mom. I'm like, yo, who is this? Like, this song is dope. And this is the first time for me, I'm normally paying attention to the music of the record, but I didn't. I paid more attention to her vocals. You know what I'm saying? Like, I paid attention to the vocals. So I was like, yo, she reaching these high notes. But I'm like, yo, who is this? And my mom was like, baby, that's Minnie Riperton. And I'm like, the chick from Wonderlove? And she was like, yeah. I was like, oh. Now, mind you, she ain't gonna come back and say, you really know what they saying in that song. She was just like, oh, you like it? I was like, yeah. But then when I got older, I said, now, wait a minute, hold up a minute. This is a nasty ass song if you think about it. Like, this is a nasty ass song, but mom let it ride. I mean, come on. My mom and no was having me listen to Doggy Style at like 7. So come on, like, this was nothing far removed from what I knew already. So it was just like, wow, this is actually the first song that I pay attention to vocals rather than, the music of it. You know what I mean? So then afterwards, I started to hear that keyboard from Joe Sample, because he was going off, you know what I'm saying, with that piano. So then that was kind of like the focus of the record to me, and Joe Sample done played for everybody, like Anita and Marvin and all them heads. But after really getting older and understanding this is a freaky ass song, then I started really getting into the music of it. It was like, and the one that stands out was Joe Sample playing the piano. So
yeah. But it's so funny to me that people kind of get on, it's nasty, because it's a woman doing it. And so when women make songs like that's real. It is perceived and talked about in a different way. Because we're like, oh my God, it's nasty. This song is about, but we talk about Ozzy Brown's like, oh yeah, it was romantic and nasty, and you keep on going. You don't think about it twice. This was like, oh. And then she had such a sweet public persona, and having that angelic voice, like it threw people off. But I think they made a bigger deal of it because she's a woman.
That's true. I agree with that. You better stand up.
I think that's why I liked it. I think that's exactly why I liked it. Right. I think because you didn't expect it from her. You know what I'm saying? Well, not me, right? I'm younger, getting onto, but I didn't expect it for her after hearing like Loving You, because Loving You is more like, oh, okay, you're in love and blah, blah, blah. And this one's like, nah, man, I'm trying to smash, till you see inside me. But yeah, I agree though. I think exactly what you said is true. Unfortunately, a lot of people, they did it with Lil' Kim, right? With Lil' Kim and Foxy Brown back in the days with the record, where it was like, they're flaunting their sexuality. And the first time I heard Lil' Kim, I was loving it, right? Like, I was like, this is hot, because it's the same thing and with the same aggression, same type of lyrics. So to me, it's like, well, who cares if it's a woman? You know what I'm saying? But especially back then, I could see them saying, well, how could you say that? How could a woman do that?
Right. And it's
and I think about it like when Kim and Foxy came out, it was like they ain't never said nothing nastier or crazier than I done heard a man say on a record. Not even close.
That's true.
But it's just, So, but go ahead, JR. Sorry.
No, it was just so crazy to me that this song wasn't even a big record. Like, when you look at what the charts of this record, this is a staple for her, but it wasn't even a big record. And I'm like, for me, on that Adventures in Paradise, which is my favorite album from Minnie Riperton, which Sis has in the background. You know, that ain't even though I love the record, I do, but I'm like, why didn't this song do better than, you know what I'm saying, than it did? But it's such a signature for her. You know what I'm saying? Like, because if you want to talk about Loving You, which is number one for her, and then if you don't go to Memory Lane or this, it's like, but I'm like, this song should have been bigger than what it was. But I'm like, you done got so many people covering it, and you got, you know what I'm saying? You got Shantae Moore that did it, which I think her version is cool, but I think she followed the Minnie blueprint to me. But when it comes to Trina Bouchard, I think her version is dope from the Love Jones soundtrack because she didn't want to hit all them high notes. It wasn't about that. It was all about
she sang it in her way.
Yeah, like singing in her way, but we still got, it was familiar to the people that knew Minnie's version, but it was like Trina did it her way. And it was just like, that's why I think her version is so dope compared to Shantae. Because Shantae, we know she want to hit them high notes and do all that. And I mean,
right.
But to be fair, that is her style of singing. So it wasn't like she wasn't being true to herself. That's not Trina's style of singing. So if Trina would have tried to do that, it would have sounded weird.
That's true.
Right.
That's very true.
Right.
Very true. That's true. That's very true. That's very
Shantae, I mean, if you know, her and those girls like her, I'm sure that was a main inspiration for them because they have those type of voices, those high octave whistle note type, you know.
So it would have been crazy if we would have just heard it and Shantae didn't do that. It would have been like, okay, Shantae, we know you can, but you ain't do it. It's like something missing. I don't know. I just like, you know, when people do remakes, they kind of do it their way and kind of, even though you feel like the original version, but it's like, you know what? I like that, the way they did it. And I feel like Trina did it like so perfect to me.
Yeah. Because think about how much Shantae is influenced by Minnie. I mean, you think of songs like "It's All Right" and all that. That sound like a song Minnie would sing if she lived today and she was a young girl in during that time.
Oh yeah.
You know,
right.
That's true. That's very true. That's very. Well, you know, hey, I tried, Shantae. I tried.
So it makes sense for her. No, because that's a direct influence for her. Direct. Yeah. So. So how has that song affected you in any way or affected how you listen to music or anything like that?
I think at that time, I had what I liked in soul and R&B, right? I had my favorites and stuff like that, but I was growing up on hip hop because it was the music of my time. So obviously I was more connected to it, especially like my brother was a DJ and stuff like that. So the hip hop influence was heavy, you know, even though I was around all of the soul and R&B, but this was the first time or one of the first times where I actually spent my money on a soul record because I liked the song so much. And when I went and listened to the rest of it, I think it kind of extended my palette for what I like, you know, because it's one thing to grow up on your parents' music and you're gonna like some of the things they like, you know what I'm saying? But once you start digging for yourself, you start finding like, yo, you ever mess with such and such or you know, the Manhattans or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think, you know, like getting into Minnie Riperton, because it's almost as if I felt it at that time, like, oh wow, this isn't typically what someone my age would go out and buy at this point in time. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it just made me listen for more music like that, and probably opened me up to a number of artists who like I'll say this, I don't know if it's a direct connection, but I know it has to have a connection. Like getting into Minnie Riperton's music that early on probably opened me up for someone like Maxwell. Because you know what I'm saying? Because that sound.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was attending Morgan State, this was like 96, and there was this crazy show. Like now it sounds bananas to hear about it because it was barely anybody there, but this was Maxwell was there. This is before his first album even came out. Who else was there? The Fugees, George Clinton, Groove Theory.
I remember you saying this on your show.
You know what I'm saying? And it was barely people in there. And I was like, this is crazy. And this is 96. Remember, the Fugees had the score out at that time. But I remember when they were doing rehearsal and Maxwell was there. And, you know, we was talking to him and he said he was from Brooklyn. He was like, oh, worry about it. But we never heard of him before. So we were like, all right, nigga probably trash. Next, because we didn't know, right? Like, all right, we here for the Fugees and George Clinton, you know, Groove Theory. But I remember when he started rehearsing, I was like, damn. And the band, like, wasn't the band Sade Band? On that first album?
What? I think so. It might have been. It might have been.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember somebody telling me that before. It was like, oh, yeah, that was the Sade Band. I was like, what? Because, you know, I didn't know them by face.
Right.
I knew the music was jamming. And maybe it was just for that first album, but I just got into the whole vibe of what he was doing, and all of it was new. And I know that sound, that feeling, that vibe of that music, a lot of that came from, you know, my early experiences with Minnie Riperton style of music. And probably opened me up to Sade, who was out around that time or before that also. So, yeah, I didn't really think about it like that, but yeah, I guess it did in some ways open me up to, you know, different sounds of music and shit as far as extending my palette.
That's crazy too, because y'all mentioning hip hop, and you know, when I heard, because now I heard Minnie Riperton's Inside My Love, but then when I heard the Tribe's Lyrics to Go, I was like, oh, that is that, because we all know Q-Tip find the best freaking loops, like for real, like he finds the best loops. So when I heard that, I was like, oh, that goes to that, and then again that got me, because like I say on this show, like everybody know my mom can catch a sample like this. She's good like that. So my dad loved Tribe. So when he got Midnight Marauders and we listened to it, and I remember my mom's like, you remember that? Because it must have been like a month or something before we got it. Mom's was like, you remember Minnie Riperton I was telling you about? I was like, yeah. She was like, well, that's the sample right there. And I was like, well, goddamn. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, okay.
Yeah, and this album, it's, you know, and Baby This Love I Have has been sampled from the same record. You know, Black Star, and let's see what else.
And Heartbroken by Aaliyah. That's one of my favorite songs from her too, and they use that sample too. I love that joint. But I just love that album, period. That's my favorite Minnie album, because to be honest, I wish Feeling That Your Feelings Right was a single. I do. I love that record because I love Minnie floating on up-tempo records, because everybody seems to know her from Loving You Like That. And everybody know Inside My Love, these ballads. I'm like, I love when she float on Simple Things. I love when she float on that. I love when she float on Loving Is Glory. Like, these songs is up-tempo on this album, and she floating on it. So I'm like, maybe the label should have brought out one of these, because clearly Inside My Love clearly didn't work. You know what I'm saying? Like,
like I like, well, that's one of the reasons I love Perfect Angel album so much, because it does have a lot of up tempos, and that's just not the songs that people usually go to, and she does those just as great as the ballads and the mids and the grooves. So
yeah, absolutely.
What album is Perfect Angel on?
That's Loving You, and what else on that album? Shit. What's on that one, sis? Shit. That's the one Erykah Badu loves.
Yeah, that has like my song Take a Little Trip. I love that song.
Take a Little Trip. Yeah, that's on there.
Loving You, like he said.
Okay.
But the Perfect Angel is the name of the album.
Okay. And since
that's the title track.
You was talking about this song and doing research on it, like overseas, I did not notice that Loving You was an A-side, and kind of, you know, over there, they kind of get stuff different than we do. And the B-side of a record that I saw on Discogs, it was a 45. The B-side was freaking Inside My Love, which I was shocked. Because I'm like, it's two different albums, but I'm like, how is the A-side this and the B-side is this? That's why, you know, like overseas, they get different stuff the way we get it. Because it's two different albums. Like, how does that even work? Like, I was just like, wow, like, that's a dope 45 to get. Because, I mean, if you need the hit right then and there, like, you good. So I was just like, I did not understand that. Like, doing research on this record, it was like, whoa, okay. Oh, man. Oh, God. Yeah, man. So, if with this, like, so do you listen to music any differently after you listen to this song? Or, you know, does it make you like, you know how you said with,
well, he kind of said that. He said it opened him up to the Maxwell and to the...
Maybe I should drink more, I'm sorry.
Maybe the red cup need to...
Coffee time. Or Corona, something chaser. I do have I guess I got a related question, only because it was something I think I discovered when I watched what's the name of that damn show that's depressing, the documentary Unsung. Yeah, I said depressing, you knew it. Yo, I be jamming in the beginning, by the end I be like, damn, everybody broke and dead. Shit.
Like at least say every episode you hear the decline. Like
right. I had to stop watching. I was like, yo, this is ruining music for me. But yeah, I had watched her Unsung, and I never knew that she did a rendition of Aretha Franklin's Respect.
Yeah.
And I had to go hunt it down because I was like, well, I got to hear that. And man, I was like, it was everything I thought it would be. Like you said, you know, it's a cover, but she did it her way. You know what I'm saying?
Now, to be honest, I ain't the biggest. I do not like Aretha Franklin's Respect at all. Like, I never did. Hey, I might get the bullet to the head, but I never. Like, Otis's version, I love. When I heard Minnie's, I liked it because it was so different from Aretha's to me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so if I have to go to anybody's, it will be Otis's and Minnie. Because Aretha's, I don't got to ever hear in life. They can never play it on the radio. I'm so sick of that. Like, ugh.
You know what? I just don't. That's another one of those songs. I don't like any version of it. But if I had to pick, you know, the lesser of the evils, I would go Minnie because it's just so interesting, you know?
Yeah, that's a good word. That's how I felt about it, because when I first heard it, I was like, Minnie Riperton doing Respect? I don't know about that one. But then when I heard it, I was like, oh, I didn't expect that, you know? So I like it.
Made it, like y'all said, it made it so, it was so different than what we were so used to being thrown in our faces. Because that goddamn song, I'm sorry, that song gets on my nerves. As soon as I hear the beginning, I cuts my radio off. I know these kids don't listen to the radio like they do, but when I hear it, I'll be like, no, turn it off, please. I can't do it.
What you gonna do about the movie? Because I've seen the commercial and that's the first record out of my mouth.
Listen. Now this movie here, Jennifer ain't gonna do nothing but holler. We know. She ain't gonna do nothing but holler. But I pray that it's great. That's all I gotta say. I pray. I'm praying that it's great because y'all know Jennifer gonna give you a holler every 2 notes. So just be prepared. I'm sorry. I'm just like, oh,
that's God. Your friend. I don't know.
Don't do that. You agree with me. You agree with me. She agree with me. She knows she do. Oh God.
Yes.
Crazy.
Well, we appreciate you talking to us.
This was so dope
about this song. Because you know, Minnie Riperton is one of my all-time faves of female vocalists.
Oof.
She's in my top 5 favorite and best female vocalists. She's on my list. So yes. So I appreciate that choice.
And you know, Stevie love him some women singers. So to know, you know what I'm saying, for him to find her and do what he did with her, you know, Stevie don't play with women vocalists for real.
Right.
Yes. So yeah, tell the folks how they can find you if you'd like to be found on these internet streets.
All right. Well, you can find me on social media at Vegas World INC. That's Twitter, Instagram, Clubhouse, Snapchat. I'm not on there, but I'm on there. But I don't have the app on my phone, but I'm on the shit, all right? I'm on a couple of things. Also, I do a weekly podcast called Hip Hop Now Podcast.
The best hip hop podcast out, y'all, please.
Thanks,
I say that. Yes. Damn, I should have worn my shirt, bro. Damn it.
It's cool. You don't have to wear it. I'm here. I don't know the pose, though.
Right.
I forget the pose.
You're right.
But yeah, the name of the podcast is Hip Hop Now Podcast. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts. Check it out. It's weekly hip hop news, culture, music, and perspective.
Yes, I love it. Well, thank you again for joining us, and thank you everybody for watching and supporting us. And we will catch y'all on the next episode of Catch That. Peace.